Let me ask you a question. When you hear the phrase generational wealth, what comes to mind? For most people, it's money, a large inheritance, a trust fund, a paid off house, an investment account passed down to the next generation. And while those things can absolutely be part of generational wealth, I think we've reduced the conversation to something much smaller than it was meant to be. Because here's what I've come to believe. Generational wealth isn't just what you leave your children. It's what you teach your children before you leave. Because money can be inherited and lost, but wisdom can be inherited and multiplied. And that's what I want to talk about today. As a Christian mom, as someone who grew up learning certain lessons about money, and as someone who is now raising a son my own, I've spent a lot of time thinking about what I actually want to leave behind. Do I want to leave behind money? Absolutely. Do I want to leave behind investments? Of course. But more than that, I want to leave behind wisdom. I want to leave behind peace and stewardship. I want to leave behind a healthy relationship with money. Because if my son inherits money but doesn't know how to manage it, protect it, or invest it, or even use it wisely, then what have I really given him? So today I want to share my perspective on generational wealth, some lessons I learned growing up, some beliefs I've had to break, and what we're intentionally teaching our son about money right now. And my hope is that this helps you think differently about the legacy you're building in your own family. My parents gave me generational wealth, even though we weren't rich. One thing I've realized as I've gotten older is that my parents gave me generational wealth long before they ever gave me money. They taught me things that still guide my decisions today, not to be dependent on credit cards. They taught me that money doesn't grow on trees, that if you want something, you have to work for it. They taught me to save a portion of what I earn instead of spending everything that comes in. Now, at the time, those lessons probably seemed simple, and I probably didn't really pay attention to the majority of them until now in my adult life. But looking back, those lessons were valuable. They shaped how I viewed money. And that's what many people, I believe, miss. We often think generational wealth starts with a bank account, but sometimes generational wealth starts with a conversation around the dinner table. Partaking in an apple pie or some fresh chocolate chip cookies, a simple lesson from a parent. Sometimes it starts with watching how your family handled those difficult seasons. Because long before children inherit assets, they inherit beliefs, they inherit habits, and they inherit mindsets. And believe me, they are watching every move that your parent or their parent is doing. And whether we realize it or not, we're teaching our children about money every single day, not just through what we say, but through what we do. Now, while my parents taught me many valuable things, there was one belief that I eventually had to challenge for myself. And I want to be careful here because this isn't about criticizing my parents. It's simply recognizing that every generation learns different lessons. The belief I grew up with was this: get a good job, stay there, work hard, collect your yearly raises, build your retirement, stay loyal to your company, and eventually everything works out. And there's nothing wrong with that approach. For many people, that's exactly the right path. But as I got older, I began realizing something. I had unknowingly started believing that my employer controlled my future, that my manager controlled my opportunities, that my company controlled my income. And if I wasn't happy, I simply had to tolerate it because that's what responsible adults do. But eventually I realized something. Opportunity is far bigger than one company. It's far bigger than one career path and far bigger than one paycheck. And once I understood that, it completely changed how I viewed money. I stopped seeing money as something scarce. I started seeing opportunity as abundance. I realized there are countless ways to create value in the world, countless ways to earn income, learn new skills, countless ways to change your trajectory. That was one of the biggest mindset shifts of my life. And that's a lesson I want my son to inherit, not just money, but that possibility is limitless. Our son is a preteen, and some of the most important money lessons happen in ordinary moments. When we go out to eat, we show him the bill, not because we're trying to make him feel guilty, but we want him to understand reality. We want him to see the taxes, the tip. We want him to understand that money moves quickly. As quickly as you get it, unless you have unlimited wealth, it quickly disappears. And that every financial decision you make has an impact. He has his own savings account, and we review his statements together. We talk about interest, we talk about growth, we talk about what happens when money has time to work. If there's something he really wants, we often encourage him to buy it himself, not because we can't afford it, but to allow him to evaluate that decision. We want him to ask himself, do I want this item more than I want my money? Is this worth giving up what I've saved? And those lessons are incredibly valuable because adulthood is simply a larger version of those same decisions that we made today. Every financial decision has a trade-off. And learning that now, in my opinion, sets him up for his future self. Before I continue, if you're realizing that you want more clarity and peace around your family's finances, I put together a free training where I talk through the mindset shifts and framework that helped our family move from financial stress to financial peace. It's completely free. You can find the link below this video and watch it after we're done here. Now let's continue. There's one piece of generational wealth I think gets overlooked the most. The wealth nobody talks about is contentment. And I know that might sound strange because we're constantly told to pursue more income, more success, more stuff, more upgrades, more everything. But if your children inherit millions of dollars and never learn contentment, they'll spend their lives chasing something they can never catch. One of the things we talk about in our family is that money is important, but money is not everything. Money pays the bills, it creates opportunities, it provides options, but money is not your identity. It's not your peace, it's not your purpose, and it's not your provider. In our home, God is. That's an important distinction. Because when money becomes your provider, fear follows right behind it. Think about it. You never feel like you have enough. You never feel secure. You never feel satisfied. But when God is your provider, you can steward money with peace. You can save, you can invest, you can build wealth, you can plan wisely without allowing money to control your emotions. And that's exactly what I want my son to understand. Money is a tool, it's not the source. And when I realized that, my view and approach with money changed. And that's how I want my view for my son as well. One of my favorite lessons from scripture is the principle of stewardship. If you're a believer, everything we have ultimately belongs to God. Our jobs, our income, our talents, our opportunities, our resources. We're simply managing what has been entrusted to us. And when you start looking at money through the lens of stewardship, everything changes. The goal stops being accumulation. It becomes faithfulness. It becomes wisdom. The goal becomes using what you've been given well. That's why we talk to our son about giving. We talk about tithing. We talk about generosity because generational wealth isn't just about teaching children how to receive. It's about teaching them how to give. Anyone can spend money, but learning generosity creates that different kind of wealth. And I think that's really important for our son to be able to learn and share that with his kids and his kids' kids. And that's what creates generational wealth. So when people ask me what generational wealth means, here's my answer. Yes, I want to leave my son money. Yes, I want to leave him investments. I want to leave him opportunities. But more than anything, I want to leave him wisdom. I want him to know that money doesn't control him. I want him to know that opportunity is limitless and to know that saving really does matter. Investing matters. Giving matters. And stewardship matters the most. And I want him to understand that wealth is bigger than a bank account. And if my son only remembers one thing about money, for me, when he's 25 years old, I hope is this. Don't let money control you. Have peace. Be content. Trust God and use money wisely, and never be afraid to invest in your future. Because real generational wealth isn't measured by what you leave behind. It's measured by what continues long after you're gone. If this video encouraged you, please make sure to subscribe. And I'd love to hear from you in the comments. What is one lesson you hope your children remember from you someday? Share it below. Thank you so much for spending time with me today. God bless.